Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen. I recorded a video yesterday based on a rather lengthy screed that I wrote out, that I typed up as a sort of a personal journaling exercise, just to get something off my chest, just to get it out of my mind. And I'm a firm believer in cathartic activity. Writing something down or recording something just to get it out of my system, but not necessarily sharing it, particularly when it is something vicious or redundant. This particular writing and video, based on the write-up, covers two particular entities that have been in, at least online news, quite a lot the last few weeks. Many commentators have already covered the grounds within this video, which is a big part of the reason why I wasn't going to upload it in any way, shape, or form. I wanted to speak my piece, write it out, and record what I had written with a little bit of improvisation and insert here and there, and have done with it. I wasn't going to share it. I wasn't going to upload it. I just wanted to get it off my chest and let that be that. And then yesterday, someone who I follow online shared a video of one of the subjects of my screed, effectively saying that they personally feel that people who use certain words or terminology that he does not care for should maybe face criminal charges, or at the very least be arrested for it, and scared into silence or changing the way in which they speak. Dylan Mulvaney, fuck you. You do not get to determine how people refer to you. There is a difference between asking someone to respect your pronouns and demanding that they do so under threat of force from the state. So piss off. The other entity that I address is Anheuser-Busch, Bud Light. A lot of people have already covered this topic quite thoroughly and quite well. So there was no need for me to inject my 2 cents. But it's part and parcel of the rest of this write-up and recording, so it's going to be included. So that's what follows. Bear in mind, I was not going to upload this. I was going to just let it sit on my hard drive for a few days, maybe a week, and then delete it. It was an exercise in catharsis, getting this series of thoughts out of my system so that I didn't obsess over it or focus on it any longer. But the moment you make demands that someone's life be flipped on its head because they refer to you in a way you don't care for, Dylan, kick rocks. Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to my YouTube channel. Or, Rumble channel or BitChute channel. I'm ultimately going to end up uploading this video to all three platforms, but the first platform I'll be uploading it to is YouTube. About 3 weeks ago, I said, I'm out. I'm done with YouTube. And I sat and I thought, maybe I can at least have a wee bit of fun with it before I'm completely off the platform. And I imagine that this video will likely either earn me a strike or a suspension, something along those lines, on YouTube, because it deals with a subject matter that causes buttholes across the online space to tighten up in terror or apprehension. And it speaks to a subject that I don't typically kind of stray toward. Something I wrote up over the course of this morning, and I'd like to share it with you now. Let the fire burn, and quite possibly let this YouTube channel burn. There's been a strange phenomenon taking place from coast to coast, one that started as a murmur and has picked up enough steam to become a bellowing war cry. The very fact that it has become such a major ongoing event is peculiar, to say the least, because it seems almost silly if one takes a few steps back to just look at the raw numbers involved. It also makes me wonder if the folks responsible for getting the whole thing started had any idea what kind of firestorm they were setting the spark to. I am referring, oddly enough, to the ongoing Bud Light boycott, which has been such a kerfuffle online recently. It may strike one hearing this as a peculiar topic for me to touch upon, given that it has, pretty much nothing to do with books, writing, the publishing industry, or the art of narrative, which is the wheelhouse I tend to keep myself relegated to. It's where I'm the most familiar and where I have expertise. But aside from being a father, a husband, and a storyteller, I'm also an alcoholic with 11 years of sobriety who used to abuse alcohol as a means of quieting the voices in my head, because I'm a paranoid schizophrenic, as I have informed you good folks before. Rather than relying on medication and a psychiatrist, I used to just drink a lot. So I'm familiar with the arena of booze in all of its myriad forms and its potential problems stemming from the use thereof. It began, it would seem, with the recently elevated VP of marketing at Bud Light deciding that the brand, despite years of stable profits and near dominance in the field of light lagers, had become out of touch with the modern young drinking consumer base. To quote her now infamous video explaining herself and her promotional decision, she felt Bud Light needed to shed its, quote, fratty, out-of-touch aura. She believed the brand needed to present itself as more inclusive, which in modern parlance, especially online, seems to routinely translate to, we're going to spit in the faces of our usual customer base and insult their cultural true north by attaching ourselves to someone or something hideously oppositional to them entirely. Enter Dylan Mulvaney. Mulvaney is a TikTok / YouTube / online pseudo-celebrity whose entire shtick has revolved around figuring out how to take his shrill, nails-on-a-chalkboard presentation style and make it personally profitable. It began when he tried making videos about nature and animals and enjoying these elements of being in the outdoors while being, well, himself. A person so flamboyant that one might expect a rainbow to burst forth from his nostrils any time that he so much as sneezed. He also exuded more energy than a live electrical wire fallen in a rain puddle. Just go watch his appearance on The Price is Right if you don't believe me. The kid is hyper enough to power a small nuclear reactor. What Dylan wanted more than anything was fame and relevancy, and he chased whatever he needed to in order to land them. If you track his rise to his current state of notoriety, it's easy to see that by first coming out as non-binary, he saw a somewhat sizable uptick of audience. But the moment he claimed to be transgender, despite singing a song about, quote, normalizing the bulge, something people with gender dysmorphia or dysphoria would be mortified to do, since trans women are usually made self-conscious and uncomfortable by their genetic and biological male anatomy, he saw a veritable tsunami of attention and support online and became a rising star. If you are offended or made uncomfortable by my continued use of the pronoun he while referring to Dylan Mulvaney, I recommend you taking a look around at the state of the world in which we live right now and shutting your fucking mouth. You don't have to be here, and I have the freedom to express myself as I so choose. Likewise, you are free to go complain about me and this material and my chosen verbiage to whomever shall listen. I don't give a damn. Back to the matter at hand. What a lot of folks don't seem to grasp in this whole situation is that Anheuser-Busch is like any other profit-driven outfit in the Western world. They want to make money, and they want to make it now. To do this, they want to saturate as much of the potential market with their products as possible. And luring potential customers in via marketing is how they do it. They felt reasonably confident that their traditional customer base was already in the bag, so to speak, but they wanted to draw in a newer, younger demographic for their beer. 10 minutes spent on looking into Dylan's typical audience would have told them that this was not a wise idea. The average TikTok viewer for Dylan is between 13 and 18 years of age, not even legally able to purchase their product. Likewise, their, quote, fratty, out-of-touch existing customer base is largely regular blue-collar types of individuals who have little or no interest in getting involved in modern socio-political conversations. The very notion of introducing this highly caustic, annoying, self-involved online personality who makes a mockery of women and all things feminine as a new icon of the brand is about as effective as pissing up a rope to relieve oneself. What came on the high heels of this influencer being made the new spokesperson for Bud Light was, in the short run, pretty predictable. Conservative figures in popular culture said, fuck all that, and fuck you, Bud Light, for openly spitting on your loyal customer base. Kid Rock made a video opening fire on cases of the beer in his possession on his personal property. Matt Walsh called for a boycott of the product. Pundits in conservative spaces expressed revulsion everywhere online. Normally, that might have been the extent of things. A small dip in sales, a hastily put together apology, or perhaps even a refusal to back down from Bud, and all would quickly go back to normal. Right? Right? Wrong. Since the whole fiasco got started and calls to boycott or switch brands went out, something bizarre has happened. A boycott that is motivated ostensibly by conservative, which historically do not work, is causing massive drops in sales for Bud Light. Distributors for the brand are uploading videos everywhere online talking about how they can't move products. Polls of small and independent bars across the American Midwest show pours of Bud Light and Budweiser are dropping quite precipitously over the course of busy weekends, with competitors Coors and Miller taking over the lion's share of sales. Whatever this thing is, it has teeth for a change. Bud Light and Dylan himself have barely tweeted or posted to their various social media accounts, as each time that they have, they've been ruthlessly mocked or ratioed, as the term goes. They have been digitally slapped about and told to go away, or they shall be taunted a second time. Monty Python references never go out of style. Several of my friends online have expressed confusion over the whole debacle. Why do people care who Bud Light uses as a spokesperson, they ask. Sometimes they claim the boycott call is an example of transphobia. I would correct them on this score. What this boycott is Bud's previously taken for granted customer base letting them know that Dylan Mulvaney does not represent them, their tastes, or their values. The Clydesdale follow-up apology commercial was seen by this customer base as a slap in the face as well, a blatant attempt to try and calm what Budweiser views as a pack of feral dogs whose money they want, but whose concerns and viewpoints they don't actually give a straight damn about. The veil has been lifted, and their old guard customers finally collectively recognized what they should have seen all along. These companies don't actually give a shite about their customers' concerns or cultural values. They just want your money. And they don't even give you a decent product in return. So, as of this moment, the boycott continues, gathering steam as casinos and bars on the Las Vegas Strip join in, canceling orders of Bud and Bud Light. Country western musicians remove the beers from their concert venues, and bars across the country tell distributors, don't bother, it isn't moving enough for you to refill the stock. The socio-political right finally found a cause to gather behind, and they've pulled in a lot of middle ground folks too, because people who don't obsessively follow these things are also weirded out that this TikTok personality is shilling piss water to his underage viewers in hopes of replacing the aging customer base down the road for Bud Light. People don't take lightly to kids being messed with or indoctrinated through commercials or endorsements. Remember the scandal of Joe Camel back in the 80s and 90s. And kids are exactly who shrieking ghouls like Dylan Mulvaney appeals to, according to all the data one can view regarding his average audience. As for his adult audience, they're mostly members of the LGBTQ plus community, which represents less than 15% of the potential market audience for beer in America. Why alienate the other 85% of your potential market, Budweiser? Why set yourselves on fire like this? Whatever your rationale, a lot of folks seem content to go ahead and let that fire burn. I myself don't give a tin shit one way or the other what Budweiser decides to do going forward. It's their company. They're free to do with it as they so choose. Why would I want them to go out of their way to do something that could be at least somewhat probatively reparative when they've done so much damage to themselves? This was something that could have been nipped in the bud quickly. For one, you didn't have to partner with the howling, shrieking ghoul that is Dylan Mulvaney, an individual who, it has been pointed out, is not as committed to this facade as many other folks seem to be to their gender identity or sexual identity. All this individual has done is make a claim of being transgender and having some facial surgery to slim down his cheekbones. Other than that, all Dylan has done is sign contracts to get himself oodles and oodles of money from these various brands, including Maybelline. Hey, Maybelline, your old-time tagline is, maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline. The only it that Dylan Mulvaney was born with was a dick. So I think you've got some rethinking to do about launching him into the stratosphere as your spokesperson. I get it. The idea that, hey, if you use our makeup, it will be ultimately feminizing. Because look, after all, we've made this man appear womanly. No, you haven't. We can still see his 5 o'clock shadow, and I'm not convinced in any way, shape, or form that Dylan actually gives a shit. All he's after is some fame and some fortune, just like most of the mercenaries who go online and promote themselves and their cultural perspective as loudly and proudly as possible. Now, do I think Dylan Mulvaney deserves hatred or nastiness? Not really, except for the fact that his audience is predominantly impressionable adolescents. If you want to be a role model, Dylan, perhaps don't shill shitty piss water, passing itself off as light lager to the 13 to 18-year-old kids who are watching you and hoping to find someone who represents them. All you're really doing is setting these kids up for future failure and alcoholism. And I can tell you firsthand, that's not the kind of pathway you want to walk in life. If you find yourself buried at the bottom of a bottle constantly, you're not going to be making decent choices for yourself moving forward in other aspects of your life. You may as well pour kerosene over your own head and set yourself on fire if you think that's a good idea, to go ahead and drink yourself into oblivion at every and any opportunity, because the end result will be the same thing. You'll wake up half dead wondering how you survived the previous evening. That's about all I've got for now. Cheers.